Today we're at Fairmount Park in Philadelphia, PA. Where I'm standing right now is not only one of the most scenic overlooks that the city has to offer, it's actually the origin of disc golf on the East Coast. I'm talking about the Belmont Plateau here in Fairmount Park. This spot is where the first disc golf course was, that soon turned into Sedgley Woods. To start things off on this show, I want us to take a walk back in time to see how, in the 70s, disc sports really flourished here in Philadelphia. Disc sports became all the rage in the late 1970s. Seems like everyone, young and old, were catching disc fever.
My brother and I started playing, and my brother conned $1 out of my mom and stuffed it in an envelope, wrote his name on it, and became an official member of the IFA. And of course, if my brother did it, I had to do it. And that meant somebody in California had our names and addresses and phone numbers. And a guy named Larry Shindell moved to Washington, D.C., where we lived, and he wanted to start a Frisbee club. So he called up the IFA, said, give me all the names and numbers of everybody in Washington. One day I get a phone call, and my mom says, hey, somebody on the phone wants to start a Frisbee club. My brother and I we wanted to do that, so we got right into that. We started playing on the Washington Monument grounds. The tourists would walk by, take pictures of us and stuff. It was great fun. And I was in high school, and a couple years later decided to come to Philadelphia to go to college, and discovered Sedgley Woods.
Well, I've played Frisbee all my life, since I was about like 9 years old. I always loved playing Frisbee. And when I was in high school, I basically didn't carry any books to school. I only carried a Frisbee with me every day. And a guy I went to high school with when I was a senior, 1981, asked me if I'd like to come to a Frisbee tournament in Fairmount Park. And that's when I first got introduced in the competitive disc sports.
Disc sports enthusiasts were playing a variety of disc sports and were drawn to the sport for many reasons.
I started out freestyling. I saw it on television, got interested. There was a big tournament down here in 1978 at Rose Street Park, and I got introduced to it by watching that. Came out here, started playing disc golf, but really freestyle was my introduction to disc sports.
I played Frisbee as a youngster. I didn't have kids in my neighborhood that were my own age, so I learned to play by myself and did a lot of self-caught flight things, what we called MTA, throw it up and catch it, see how long you could keep it in the air. When I went to band camp, the drum major from Penn State's Blue Band came down and taught our drum major how to do flips and whatnot, and he was an excellent Frisbee player. And he taught me some strange throws and catches that I'd never seen before, so I spent a lot of time learning those things from him. When I went to Penn State, I'd find people to play Frisbee with in the quad and just throw back and forth. But that gets boring after a while, just trying to see how far you can throw. So you learn to do trick catches between the legs, behind the back, trailing edge catches where you'd catch the disc after it went past you. That's how I ran into Jim Powers, because I was doing that on Old Main Lawn at Penn State, and I saw their Ultimate Frisbee team was practicing there on Old Main Lawn, and I ran into him. And Jim Powers was the person who helped start this course down here, and a lot of Frisbee clubs in the area owe everything they have to Jim Powers. I joined the Penn State Frisbee team, the Ultimate Frisbee team. We went off to tournaments, and I followed him down here to this area. When Jim Powers moved down here, I kind of came down here as well, and he started the Philadelphia Frisbee Club while I was not really in the area, but I linked up with him later and didn't help put this course in, but was a big part of my life at that point.
The history of freestyle or any of the Frisbee sports really started with somebody saying, hey, watch this. And as soon as somebody did a trick, somebody said, I'll do that. And my brother and I used to go out after high school in the front yard or the street, and my brother would say something like, okay, today it's nothing but sidearms. And I'd go, okay, nothing but sidearms. And the next day one of us would say, all right, let's do all catches have to be behind the back catches. And we'd work on that. And that's how we started freestyle. Of course, we got to the level where we competed some, but we weren't, never won anything. But I'm sure that's how all the champions started.
Disc golf emerged from a multitude of disc sports. Oftentimes, many of these disc sports would get together and stage multi-competition tournaments. One of these tournaments was known as the Octad, which was an 8-event multi-disc sport event that debuted in 1974 at Rutgers University.
Frisbee golf, distance, freestyle, accuracy, throw, run, and catch, and maximum time aloft. I'm not sure how many events I just named, but there was 8 total events, and you ended up having an overall champion. You got points for how you finished in each event, and you came up with an overall champion. And eventually that was moved over to here. We cooperated with the Long Knockers golf range over there and held all our field events over there. And we had WMMR or WYSP radio station sponsor us, so there might even be an MMR or YSP Frisbee over here on the display from that era. As I believe Shannon brought up about, you had 30 pairs of competition in the freestyle division, where some of the best people in the world only ended up placing 7th.
Probably one of my best memories here is when we had Octat over here in the driving range, and there were 33 open freestyle teams, and the field was so deep that the Velasquez brothers came in 7th and didn't drop. And back then, they were pretty much insured of winning every tournament. It was pretty neat because all the really founders of the sport were here.
Freestyling is one of the sports that helped contribute to the evolution of disc golf. Shannon Wynn was one of those freestylers and has these memories to share.
I could spin it on my toe. Just the general stuff that they invented up in New York City, and we stole all their tricks, and some West Coast stuff and some wind tricks, and we used to make big lists of long legal pad work of all the different tricks we could do, and hard to say. With variations, probably hundreds. Double spinning flamingitis. Let's see. Same side double leg over. Against the spin inside out, with the spin inside out. And of course, if you can do tricks with one spin, clockwise spin, you had to learn the whole other side, which was basically like learning to write with your left hand if you're right-handed. So, depending on which spin you took, you had some tricks available to you if you were right-handed, and other tricks available to you if you were left-handed, and vice versa if you took counterclockwise spin, which we always called devil spin because it's difficult to throw.
Up until this time, disc golf was more commonly known as object golf, a concept where competitors compete to see who can hit a target in the least amount of throws. The choice of target was very diverse.
Some would be the base, the bottom wheel of a cannon. Another might be a tree. Another might be a pole. And in some cases, when we had an object course, they would tie a ribbon and you had to hit the tree below that ribbon. In other cases, to make it a little more difficult, they'd tie a ribbon, maybe this high, and then another ribbon here, and you had to hit inside the 2 ribbons. And I love object courses because although it may be a little easier putting, you have more variety and more creativeness in how you want to design the course, even for one day.
Object golf is really the first thing to develop. Hey, I can hit that tree from here. No, you can't. I can. Yes, I can. Well, I can do it in 2 throws. And object golf was born. This fella I mentioned, Larry Shindell, he set up an object course in Washington, D.C. in Constitution Gardens. It's hard to imagine now, but I think it was the 8th hole went right through where the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is today. I mean, we just would tromp right through there with our bags and our discs. And Constitution Gardens was great because they had these lamp posts at regular intervals all along the sidewalks. So we had, in that case, we weren't using trees, we were using the lamp posts, which were just perfect. We used to say things like, you can't hit the concrete base. It has to be the metal part of the lamp post. So you couldn't slide along the sidewalk and hit the base. You had to actually hit it on the fly.